dear Joseph, dear Steve, dear colleagues and friends, thank you very much for inviting me here, a person who is not a real tech person, but the one who is just learning how it works and how it helps. And special thanks to Pavneet, who showed us beautifully how people who can incorporate talks about not really very typesetting things into this beautiful meeting. So why I am here? Because I enjoy the company, because I have many friends and colleagues here, and because I know that tech is very useful for people from different specialties, including physicians, as I am. And being here is a big privilege, especially and seeing friends who come with special small gifts. Thank you, Jennifer. So, for those with whom we haven't met yet, I am Leila Akhmadeeva and I'm a neurologist from Russia. I am a physician. And I would like to start with a story. I teach students at the university hospital, and once we had, our topic was consciousness. And I took my students to intensive care unit, and there was a very nice guy. He was a student from engineering, from Aircraft Institute. And he had an accident, and his consciousness was not really perfect, so he was disorientated. He didn't know the date, he didn't know where he is. And I explained to students that this is what could happen, and I asked him questions. So I asked what is the date, he was confused. I asked where he studies, he was not really sure. And I say, you study at Aircraft University? He says, yeah, probably. And I told him, to be an engineer in Russia, you have to study for 5 years. And these are my medical students. Do you know how long should they study to be physicians? He opened his eyes and he told me, to be a physician, you should study for the whole of your life. So that is the reason why we as medical doctors need continuous medical education and establish different institutions for that. And the formal side is for becoming a medical doctor in Russia, we go to the university, I guess as is Germany, right after your high school, not as in the United States. Then we graduate with a diploma of a medical doctor, and then we have to do quite a lot of training for being a specialist. And all these kind of trainings, we start with residency, some of us do PhD studies, etc. We do as postgraduates. And every 5 years, we have to do separate additional training, and we have to go to a certification exam again to just show that you're good enough to continue to be a medical doctor. That's why we have different institutions whose main idea is to educate physicians and to continue and to do different kinds of training that can be long training or short training. Residency is considered to be postgraduate, post-university education, and even short courses like 5 hours course could be postgraduate course that is conducted by different institutions, and they could be either governmental state universities or they can be private universities. And this is quite a new thing in Russia. We do not have many private institutions who are fully licensed and good enough to teach physicians for the whole of their lives. So the institute that we are presenting here is a very new institution. It got its license just this spring in 2015. It's a brand new, it is a privately owned medical institution for postgraduate continuous studies. And so this is the license and how it looks like. And it was organized by our National Health Chamber. So it is not one person, it is a health chamber, which is a Bashkirian health chamber, and this is the site of the Russian National Health Chamber. Actually, no, this is the Bashkirian one. Yeah.
Yeah, but
You probably know that health chambers are kind of association of different physicians and institutions, and its main idea is to keep everybody updated, to imply the best things into medical sphere, and to educate physicians. So this is the site, and unfortunately, the English site is not that good, but somebody who is interested can do it afterwards. Here I can show this is the National Medical Chamber, and it has the institute that we are talking about. Institute has its license, has all the different programs, and we are just starting doing different things and different programs and different things for physicians. And to make it looking good, of course, you have to have a style. You have to have a logo, you have to have different forms for sending letters, for advertising, for making slides beautiful. And one of the reasons we want to continue this is because we want to also, we are already publishing a newspaper for physicians, and we plan to publish a peer-reviewed scientific journal that will also be a part and will be owned by National Chamber, Medical Chamber. So, yeah.
You want to return to the slides?
Okay, let's go to the slides.
Yeah. I don't know what you want. Yeah.
So to create the style for the documents and letters, you have to have someone who knows how to do this and who knows how to do this beautifully. And I know Boris, and he's the one who knows how to do it beautifully and who knows how to do it and who is very kind and who is always supporting different things that are not funded in Russia.
Okay.
So this was the reason I asked him to help in this situation. I work for Bashkir State Medical University, but this is the new institution, and they asked me to help them starting things and teaching some courses there, and even to coordinate the international activity. So we will see how it will work out, but we decided to start with creating a style for documents and letters, with creating a beamer style for slides, and we are still thinking and dreaming about publishing not just a small newspaper but a journal which will be peer-reviewed Russian journal for medical articles. Mm-hmm. So starting with the logo, it's Boris put a nice map there just to show where is my city, Bashkortostan. This is in Russia, in the very central part of Russia, and this institute will be actually, and it is already kind of famous for very flexible programs that include not just physical education at the site, but since this is for postgraduate education and for the professionals, it includes different distant learning, e-learning, and different programs that state universities do not really have at the moment, or most of them. So we're in the middle of the country, and we already have some cooperation with people in Vladivostok, with people in different countries, although we are physically far. This is the flag of the republic. Bashkortostan is a republic inside Russia. So Russian Federation is a big federation. Bashkortostan is the republic inside the country, and it has its own flag, and it has its own coat of arms and logos and things like that. And I think that they look quite beautiful. And the thing is... Что-то не так?
No, I just said, let me put all this here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Boris thinks that it's funny, but it looks beautiful, but it looks beautiful for me. This is the flower of kurai, and this is a nice plant that grows in Bashkortostan, and you can make a musical instrument out of it. The plant has several petals corresponding to 7 Bashkirian tribes, which historically were there. The flag has 3 main colors: blue, white, and green. Blue is for integrity, white is for peacefulness and cooperation, and green is the freedom and eternal life. And some people also think that it also has to do something with Islam, which is one of the main religions in the country. So the history of the logo. Since this is a private institution, we, the owners, the chamber, decided that the style, the logo, the new logo should have some elements from the National Chamber of Medical Professionals of Russia, from National Chamber of Bashkortostan, and this was the first a logo that one of the artists, her name is Olesya Pasnova, created for us. And as the main ideas, the main ideas were taken from these two logos. This is the one for Russian Medical Chamber with the Russian flag. This is the one for Bashkirian Medical Chamber with the Bashkirian flag. So this was the one that was created and by Olesya for us, and which is still thought that it might be one of the logos. Another logo was created by another professional artist who is a specialist in logos. So in Russian it's Geraldika, I don't know the English one, Geraldics? So
the science about coat of arms and heraldry, yes, heraldry.
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 Okay.
Yes.
So he's the specialist in this. His name is Ayrat Usmanov, and this is the logo that he created for us, and I think that this one will probably win the competition. That's what I wanted to say in the beginning.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Boris
and
will
now I will
continue
talk about
more interesting things for you guys.
Look
okay.
at your slide, it already won the competition.
It was an interesting thing for me because I did a lot of styles for journals, for books, even for different things, and making a style based on formal documents and forms, it was interesting for me. So I started to say that first I wanted to make some blank forms. So you have a blank forms, you put it into a printer, you get a letter or some official document. I said that maybe somebody will use tech for printing the letter. I don't know whether the CEO of the institute or somebody in his staff will use tech, but why not? And it would be an interesting exercise to write the real tech class, which would make any letter in the style of the institute. I did not know what I was going into, and you will see why. And second, I wanted letters. And I wanted to do it. And I started to work. And what you see here is the Russian standard. And this is just first page of the standard. And this is, I think it's page like 71 or something. Unlike ISO standards, Russian standards, you don't pay several $100s for a copy. But unlike ISO standard, well, they're in Russian, which is okay, but they're long and you must be strict. This is the Russian standard for documents. And I found that they have something like 30 something elements. And as you see, they have exactly places for the elements. They have some variations, but you must have something for the elements. You must put it somewhere and they must be there. So it was an interesting exercise. Okay, I
spent 2 weeks studying that.
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks just reading Russian standards and learning how to do documents. I never knew that this is so formal. Okay, I started say, okay, there are many Russian fonts. If you above the head block. Actually, it says this is the inscription by the head, which says that approve. It's this approval mark. It should be typeset above the name of the institution, and you can check, and all with several dozen elements have their places in these documents. Okay, this is about formal documents. Then I said, okay, I'm going to present. If you would present it in something else but the class which corresponds to the institute. So I said, okay, let's write a Beamer theme, a Beamer theme for the. And what we say is that I said, okay, I have Bashkirian flag, which has white, blue, gold, and green. And as Leila said, all of them have some meaning on this. Because Bashkortostan is Russia, we want also to add Russian colors. The Russian colors are blue, white, and red, so we want to add red. And then I understood that you cannot add red to any Beamer theme without making it absolutely garish. So I said, okay. It looks like a cool advertising if you put red onto it. So what I said, okay, let's use green and gold for outer elements in Beamer speak. So you have lines like this. Let's use blue for inner elements. So if you look at with 1, 2, and so on, they in Beamer speak they're called inner elements. So let's use blue for them. And they said, okay, it has logo, and logo has red streaks, so that's enough red for one page. Let's put it like this. And again, if they would change, if they're still talking about changing logo, if they would change logo, you would need to change this design decision. But right now, you have as much red as you can tolerate on this page. Okay. Since this means that you want to have logo on all pages because you want the red of the logo, you want so-called sidebar theme. So you have this sidebar with the logo. Yes, and I use this theme and I put a lot of space around the elements because you want this blue air to be in your Beamer. So again, this is the design that we went with. And to keeping with the style, we used paratype, and since it's traditional for slides to use sans serif, we used sans serif paratype. And again, you can use it for Russian, Bashkirian, and English. It does not mean that we don't have problems. One of the big problems is that with this design, you have space for only one logo. I work for George Mason University, so in all my presentations but this one, I put George Mason University logo on the pages. But if you look at this theme, you will say, okay, where do you put it? You don't have, well, you can put it somewhere here, maybe.
I suggested 6 places.
Yes, Leila said 6 places, but on 6 places it looks so badly, so I said, okay, forget about it. But this is basically one institution presentation. And actually, I understood that this is for slides designers. If you want to have really versatile slides class, you need to think about making common presentation with somebody else, because then you will say you will need a couple of logos. Then you will say, okay, what about color schemes? If you have different, I really don't know. This is something which I don't know how to solve. And maybe you should do some other themes by sidebar, because sidebar takes a lot of space into theme elements, but it's possible to do. So as you see, this is the self-referential talks in this part, because this used the slides class, which we describe in the talk. So it's self-referential. Okay, so what we see is that making formal documents like formal letters according to the standard is a very interesting challenge. It's unlike whatever I did before. If you want to have several languages, it's even more challenge, because different languages have different word lengths, so your formal elements would be of the different size, and then you spend a lot of time just juggling around here and there. So it's interesting. And I really don't know how I would solve it without tech, but with tech it was a lot of fun, and with tech you could do it. So so if you want to make any formal thing according to strict specification, tech is probably should be your first and second and third choice. So that's basically all what Leila and I wanted to tell you about this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, questions from people?
Yeah?
You talked about the principle of harmony in multilingual typesetting. There are times, though, when you want contrast. So there are some Cyrillic letters that are the same as Latin letters, and if you need a quick read of it, did you ever
Yeah.
find that in these documents?
No, and my reading of Russian standard was that they actually they spent a lot about symmetry and same lines, and they understood that for multilingual documents it was, sorry about saying this, political rather design decision. They did not want any, initially they made this bilingual document standard for document in Russian and some of the languages of Russian republics, and they did not want to show any of them to be in a privileged position. They really wanted to put it on the, so one of the phrases in standard says they must be on the same height, they must be on the same lines, address should correspond to address, and you never ever should put one above other. So I think it's, yeah, I understand that sometimes you want to do this, but not for this task. You probably would be, yeah.
So will you be teaching all of the physicians how to use LaTeX so they can write
So actually, since the institution is quite flexible and it's a private institution, it can teach anything that will be useful for physicians. So that's why I would really love to invite many people who can teach different things that are applicable for physicians. So LaTeX, tech, whatever is always welcome. The only two things that we should think of is who will be able to teach it well and who will be able to pay for that.
May I add something to it about my experience? I actually, some time ago, I had somebody approached me from the American physicians world. They wanted to make a system which would take measurements and from the lots of sensors for physicians, some like your blood work, your pressure, and so on, and they wanted to use tech as a backend for typesetting nice things. And actually the second project, I just remember that one of my projects was helping some dermatologist to make some dermatology reports from his lab. So at least lab people, what is the name for this? Laboratory physicians who do who do lab work. Some of them know tech, and some of them use them for automating lab record. At least I had at least one customer and one prospective customer who approached me. Unfortunately, nobody of them was from Russia, so I wanted, so I basically did not want to do it for free. So, yeah, from people from Russia, Ukraine, and so on, I usually do this for free.
But now in Russia we have a system of grants, so there are some organizations that grant money for some educational reasons. So, but they do not grant money for state universities. But
Yeah.
the private university is something that can apply for this grant.
Question about the using hyphenation pattern. Did you try to find any word list in Bashkirian language with hyphenations that you can create?
Yeah, I think I saw some online dictionaries. So if there is a big need, I can probably create some list. But not being Bashkirian speaker, I was rather hesitant of taking it onto myself to create hyphenation patterns for Bashkirian.
We have many books typesetted in Bashkirian language, so probably,
but
these things exist. And
but what I need for tech, it would be some online Bashkirian dictionary.
With
field.
all the hyphenation
With all the
then
hyphenation
that's a true
patterns,
generation.
yeah. So reading Bashkirian books and extracting, maybe I can do it.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Thank Boris Veytsman again for very
Thank you.
And my special thanks to the bursary committee that allowed me to come here and to
Yeah,
participate in this meeting.
Yeah, we forgot about acknowledgements. This work was not paid even for by the institute. Hopefully they will, but
We have
we are very
nothing yet
grateful.
to
Yeah,
offer.
but we want to acknowledge the help of Tech Users Group, which helped with the travel arrangement. Thank you very much, guys.